What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Wager Alarm. I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. We are talking NFL player props. It's the wide receiver and tight end edition today. How are you, Craig? What's going on?
I'm doing real well. I'm looking forward to doing wide receivers and certainly over on FanDuel. My gosh, I think they have 25 different wide receivers that you could bet the over-under on. And so I dove, and tight ends. And so I dove pretty hard into this. And, looking for different advantages. I think unlike running backs who we talked about, you can lean a lot on the overs on the receivers. This is a passing game now in the NFL. Mm-hmm. 17 games of these guys. They're mostly relatively healthy. Of course, there are some that you want to stay away from because they have health issues. But again, like I looked at Odell Beckham's and I thought, this is somebody I want to go over on. And then you're playing a little bit of a Beckham tax because people are still fans of his. I think it was just part of my process looking at it. And, what happens is with me is that I'll look at the prop before I look at the number. I'll think, what do I have? What would I think the number is? Not what he'll go over on or what I think they make the number. And then when I see it, then I'll determine after I see it whether or not I like it. So you guys can go back and watch our videos, of course, on demand on YouTube or wageralarm.com. We went through all of the quarterbacks. We also went through running backs we like. And now it's time for receivers and tight ends.
Receivers and tight ends, not all necessarily ones who we like, because the first name on your list, Craig, is probably one of my least favorite wide receivers, or at least he's been one of my least favorite for the last, 4 or 5 seasons right now. He ain't what he used to be.
No.
AJ Green, now over in Arizona. Cliff Kingsbury, the air raid offense, pass happy. And so far, it's looking like he's the Z receiver to the X that is DeAndre Hopkins. So receiving yards prop for him, 550.5 for 17-game season, Craig? That seems low.
Well, I will say this, Howard. Can you assure me, as it stands right now, that A.J. Green is going to make the Cardinals this season? Can you assure me of that? Is that a guarantee?
No.
And if that's the case, how can I not bet under on this? How is that possible?
Even if he makes the Cardinals, can he play 5 games?
I don't think so. Rondell Moore looked really good in week 1 of the preseason. They still have Christian Kirk. I don't think anything of Andy Isabella. And as we're recording this right now, has Larry Fitzgerald made a decision one way or the other on his season, on what he's going to do? I think he's
retired. I think he's retired.
Okay, well, maybe he will. But regardless of that, A.J. Green is finished. Done. He's done. Trash. He was a great receiver, possibly Hall of Fame worthy. But you're giving me the option on a player that I think may not. Even if he has a 20% chance of not making the team, I could not find a single player on all of the FanDuel props that I felt that way about. Howard, it was an immediate under for me, if I possibly think that. And look, I could easily get burned. A.J. Green could play his 10, 15 games this season and average 40, 50 yards. It definitely could happen. But I thought to myself, my gosh, what happens if he doesn't make it or he doesn't look good in the preseason? I think that possibility did exist. He didn't look anything like the guy that he used to look last year. And I'm going under on this. And maybe he makes the team and maybe he gets his 600 yards this season. I don't think so.
I don't think he gets the 600 yards. I could see him making the team. I'm not going to say that he's not going to make the team, because he's a veteran, and I almost kind of feel like Cliff Kingsbury is a little starstruck with him too. I could get him that one last, AJ Green type season. The audacity of Kingsbury to actually think that. But listen, I saw this prop and I laughed my butt off.
Couldn't believe it was on there.
I'm so on the under on this. It's not even funny. It's forget it. I love the under. It's my favorite one. And that's our first one. And it won't get any better than that.
They gave a prop for AJ Green. Honestly, Howard, if it was 1 yard, I would have considered going under just because, again, of that factor. Now you're giving me 500? I would have went under on 1.
550. Terrible.
Not happening.
Not
happening.
Next guy we're going to San Francisco, a team that you are incredibly bullish on, right? If you guys watched our NFC West wins totals, Craig is as big a San Francisco 49ers fan as anybody here in the Bay Area right now. You've got Deebo Samuel. His prop, 875.5, which, you know, I kind of feel like that's recency bias against the fact that he was injured last year. I think everybody's kind of elevating Brandon Ayuk a little too much here. And I'll say this because I had this discussion with somebody earlier. Brandon Ayuk's target share last year was in direct correlation to the injuries of Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. Absolutely. And that's just bottom line right there. Now you've got Deebo Samuel. He is 100% healthy. You've got George Kittle there. Those are the top two targets for this passing attack. 875 seems a little low for me. I want to lean on the over here.
I do too. I'm a big Deebo Samuel fan, and I know that this, of all of the ones that we've discussed, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, clearly this has the most risk because he's been unable to stay healthy since he's been in the NFL. But I am willing to take the chance here because I think one or the other happens here. Either Deebo Samuel is going to be a 13. You know what? He's going to either be DK Metcalf or he's going under this. Like, that's pretty much the way that I see it. I think he's a monster. 14.1 yards per receptions a couple of years ago, 11 games and 800 yards. I mean, I love the player. I think he has a chance to be a superstar in the NFL, and I could see him making that jump. It is, for me, Howard, it is only injuries with this guy, and that is it. And that's a factor, of course. Mm-hmm. But I think he could absolutely smash this thing. I think he's the better receiver between him and Brandon Ayuk. And I think Trey Lance, it may take a bit, but I think Trey Lance is the real deal. It's going to take a bit, though, with him. Of course, he didn't throw the ball away. He got sacked a few times in the first game. I understand all that. I am over on Deebo Samuel's number this year. I am going to be taking him in the fantasy landscape as well. I predict a big year for him.
All right. I like it. Let's move it on over to Cincinnati. Now, here's an interesting one. You want to talk T. Higgins. You got Jamar Chase. He's the favorite, although I keep hearing that Jamar Chase is having trouble getting separation in camp right now. And if you can't get separation against this tomato can secondary that the Bengals have, well, what are you going to do against some of the top cover corners in the NFL? Nevertheless, he's still the apple of good old Joe Burrow's eye. So you've got Tyler Boyd there. You've got Jamar Chase there. CJ Uzomah, the tight end, is now healthy again. T. Higgins, can he be that 1,000-yard receiver? The prop is at 1,000.5 yards. You like him over or under here, Craig?
Yeah, a couple correlations. The second part of what you mentioned about Cincinnati is really the key. They, like Tennessee, who we talked about with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, probably have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So naturally, they're going to be throwing a lot. That's going to help T. Higgins. The relationship that he already has from working with Joe Burrow when Burrow was healthy last year, that's going to help T. Higgins. I've read the same things about Chase. I don't know that really factors into the handicap because I think eventually second half Chase ends up being really good. I see Chase kind of having a Ruggs type season, like a little bit on, a little bit off, and then we're in on him really hard in 2 years from now. But Higgins, I think, is another one of those budding stars. And, he's not the kind of guy that I think is going to have like 1,500 or 1,600 yards in a season because Burrow, even at LSU, did move the ball around a lot. And he did at Cincinnati, too. Those other names you mentioned, definitely going to be involved in the offense. But a lot of targets for him last year, even with Brandon Allen. I am going to go over on T. Higgins, Cincinnati playing from behind. I'm hopeful Burrow is healthy the whole season. Does it really matter for only 1,000 yards? I don't really think it does. 17 games, man. That's a lot. And I think this is a really good receiver. Not the 1,600, not what Deebo Samuel, I think, can be with a crazy breakout Metcalf season, but he'll go over the 1,000.
Damn, Deebo. Deebo, you're so in on Deebo.
I like Deebo. I do.
I know you do.
Yeah, I do.
All right, you just mentioned Tennessee because we talked about Tennessee when we were talking running backs, quarterbacks is what we were talking. We were talking Ryan Tannehill. So new guy in town, Julio Jones. He joins the Tennessee Titans, a team who we cited as a terrible defense. We already talked about the fact that Ryan Tannehill, we liked him for the over on his passing yards prop. Julio Jones sitting here now, 1,125.5 yards. Under or over for Julio?
Yeah, I think there are other receivers on Tennessee that are going to have great seasons. A.J. Brown definitely going to be one of those, no doubt. Look, Julio Jones is going to make the team, okay? Like, he's going to play. He's going to make the Titans. The Falcons had a choice there. Tennessee really didn't have to give up anything for him. But I mean, I don't think this guy is playing a full season, and Howard, I don't think he's going to be healthy for the whole year. I think he'll be productive, and this will probably be his final productive year in the NFL. But I feel like Julio Jones, when it's all said and done, is going to be known as one of the best Falcons wide receivers of all time. And they discarded him, man. Like they didn't even think twice about getting rid of him. And I don't think they got enough back in return if he's so good. Would they get a third or a second round pick for him? And that was it. This is not my favorite one, but I do tend to bet against the old dudes, and he's approaching that. I'm going under on Julio Jones.
All right. No, still my favorite is the A.J. Green one. Still my favorite.
I mean, we're not going to do better than that. It's not going to be possible.
Really not. I knew we weren't going to do better than that.
No, we're not. We're not, but, whatever.
All right, last one here. We're going to go to the tight end position. T.J. Hawkinson. The world is bullish. Not just the fantasy world, the betting world also. Very bullish on T.J. Hawkinson because what? You got Jared Goff there now instead of Matthew Stafford. You only have Brashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams, two wide receivers who are about as mediocre as you could possibly get. You've got a horrifying defense. So this team is going to be throwing till the cows come home, despite the fact that Dan Campbell says that he's, likes to run first, and Anthony Lynn's going to rotate in his backs and whatever. TJ Hawkinson, man, 775 and a half yards for receiving. You like the over or the under here?
Yeah, this is one I'm going against everyone on. I don't understand this one. I think Hawkinson can have a nice season, but he had a maxed out year last year in every scenario, Howard, that you are describing. Like, all the guys were out for last year in Detroit. Who were their wide receivers last season? Jones was out. Galladay was out. And what happened? Hawkinson got 1 million targets for a tight end. 101 targets with Matthew Stafford. That's a lot. And what did he do? He had 67 receptions. Okay. 723 yards. He played every snap. So why is his total higher than that? Why? Based on what?
Extra game.
Quarterback is not as good. The team is not as good. I don't understand it. He's going under this. Hawkinson's okay. He's not Antonio Gates. He's not Darren Waller. He's not Mark Andrews. He's a good tight end, but he's not going to have some crazy 100-catch season with Jared Goff. This is the product of people just look and say, oh, someone's got to catch the ball on the bad team. No, that never works. It never works. You're always wrong in that spot. No one catches the ball. The team wins 2 games. That's the deal. Under on Hawkinson.
I mean, I think the 775 is a really, that's the line right there.
Think it's fair? That's fair.
I think it's fair. I think if he goes under or over, regardless, I think it's just barely. If he goes over, it's 785 yards. If he goes under, it's like 770 or 765. I think there's a 10-yard swing in either direction with what we're looking at with Hawkinson. I mean, again, you also have to factor in that he's got to stay healthy. And if this guy is going to see that many targets and he's going to take that kind of a beating when he makes these catches, then he's got to stay healthy too. So I understand you're under. It's a no bet for me. I think that this is just too close to call for me on on this one here.
Fair enough.
I love that AJ Green prop.
Listen, that's the kind of prop, Howard, that, let's be honest, in the betting world, you're listening to us talk and you're logging on because you do not believe that it's true. I mean, it's just it looks that good. Howard himself was probably like, this can't be right. He made a mistake.
Oh, I checked it. I checked it immediately.
I thought you were going to say, I bet it.
I was like, do you have a decimal point in the wrong spot here, Craig?
Yeah, poor AJ Green. He's had a great career, but it's over. But anyway, our series will continue. Thanks everybody for watching, certainly, and we'll continue on. We'll have some more NFL props, some college football as well.
Absolutely. All right. So that is going to do it for us. Again, you can check all of our videos out, wins totals, player props by position, wageralarm.com. That's where you want to be. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.